Our speaker this morning is Ms. McConney. Ms. McConney teaches history and coaches varsity girls ice hockey. She also serves as student life coordinator and is dorm head in Dellside. Ms. McConney.
In the sport of ice hockey, there is a certain art to taping a stick. Just mentioning the act, for me, conjures images of resolute, determined faces, of headphones placed securely in ears, of eyes focused on the task, of slow, measured strokes of a hand that looks practiced, that seems confident, that demonstrates care. For others, it might conjure an image of a brief, albeit important act completed quickly and painlessly. Something that is necessary, sure, but not worth spending unnecessary time on. And there's this interesting thing about taping a stick. It exemplifies how a person illustrates their care for their stick's blades, certainly, but also for the sport, for their teammates, for themselves. It ends up being an oddly self-expressive act. And this is where the art comes in, because there are endless ways to tape a stick. And even when two people share the same style of taping, none of them are quite identical. As an educator, I'm invested in understanding how human beings become who they truly are. I've learned over the years that there's a process to it, one of self-discovery, of self-reflection, and perhaps most overlooked, of self-reliance. I'd like for everyone here to take a moment to explore what that last self word really means. It's something we don't talk about all that often. So, what is self-reliance? Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines it as thus, quote, reliance on one's own efforts and abilities, end quote. And yes, self-reliance is depending upon yourself to get things done. It is trusting yourself enough to have the right answer. It is looking to yourself first. And these aspects of self-reliance are tremendously important as each of us embark upon or continue on our journeys of becoming who we are. There's also a key component of self-reliance that this dictionary definition leaves out: trust. For to be truly self-reliant, you need to trust yourself. And for you to truly trust yourself, you need to believe in yourself and your own ideas. You cannot go outside the bounds of your own mind to seek the right answer, particularly when the question relates to you and who you want to be. That said, we face crossroads in our lives. And when you have a decision lying at your feet, you can certainly solicit some different opinions, some advice. What should I do in this situation? How should I handle this conversation? What course should I take for H-term? Questions like these will undoubtedly shed insight into the decision that needs to be made, but the answers that others provide should be contextualized. We all must take it upon ourselves to listen to the advice of others, yes, but to also view it with a critical eye. Take that guidance into your mind, but also question whether it is true to who you are and who you want to be. Self-reliance means that you are the one responsible for your own decisions. You are the one who needs to live with the choices that you make. And as such, you cannot simply listen to others all the time. You need to listen to yourself first. Let me be a little bit more specific when it comes to taping a hockey stick as a way of self-expression. I'll use myself first as an example. Here's how I do it. I tape my full blade from heel to toe in white tape. The space between each stroke is equidistant, but I am able, after years of practice, to achieve this quite quickly. While I'm taping my stick, my hands are confident, not rushed, but not overly careful either. The final product looks carefully completed, looks like I really took my time with it, like I paid attention to the details, which I did, and I really cared deeply about the blade itself, about what it would do for me personally, but more importantly, about what it would do for my teammates. Now, a contrasting example of this. A teammate of mine from college used to take a long strip of white tape, place it on the bottom of their blade, and wrap some tape around it really haphazardly. While the way I tape my stick doesn't take a whole lot of time, maybe about 5 minutes or so, hers took like 30 seconds. Quite the contrast to my careful execution. It may not surprise you then to hear that this teammate of mine, with whom I am still close to this day, is a whirlwind. She has achieved a considerable amount of success in her life, is very capable and intelligent, but also operates in a much different manner than me. She's all energy, like zipping back and forth from one thing to the next, completing tasks really quickly, a bit too close to recklessly, in my opinion, before moving on to the next thing. Her approach works extremely well, but I personally tend to be far more methodical and intentional in how I do things. I think through steps quite carefully and deeply, and in order to consider how my actions may end up affecting those around me, sometimes to my own fault. But I also tend to do things with a considerable amount of care. I pay close attention to the details because, in my opinion, details matter a whole lot. I could provide even more examples of the parallels between how one tapes their stick and how they operate, from a person who tends to ask for tape constantly because they never have it in their bag, to the person who asks other people to tape their stick for them. But I hope you understand that the image that I'm painting here, these last two examples, the one of the person who forgets their tape and the one of the person who asks other people to tape their stick, are real and are taken from my own personal experience in the game. You might want to think about those as we continue on here. But going back to this idea of self-reliance, it's something that some people achieve more easily than others, certainly. I think it has a lot to do with one's personality, with the things that one values. But yes, some of us are more easily predisposed to relying on ourselves. Though this doesn't prevent any of us from achieving self-reliance on our journeys of becoming who we are. In fact, there's this idea of fidelity that we forget all too often. Fidelity, loyalty. And when I say we forget fidelity, I mean we forget to be loyal to ourselves, to what we believe in, to who we ultimately are. Instead, we focus on the opinions of others, on external validation, on making sure that we have the correct answers at all times instead of just trusting ourselves enough to think what we think. We forgo self-reliance in the pursuit of correctness, and we value accuracy over ingenuity. But you know what normally happens when you make a wrong choice? You learn, and you don't make that mistake again. Now, I'm not advocating for consciously making the wrong decision. Instead, I'm suggesting that we need to stick to our own values more, to adhere to our self-beliefs, to have confidence in ourselves, to make a decision with the understanding that even if it goes wrong, it will work out in the end. We'll work it out. I want all of us to rely on ourselves a little bit more and on others considerably less, because there's a fine line between seeking advice and becoming someone who cannot make a decision for themselves. Yes, look to others for help, but do not become beholden to what others say. Over the course of many hockey careers, players experiment with how they tape their sticks. They oscillate between white tape and black tape. And let me be clear about something before I go on. Those are the only two options. All others, ridiculous. Other players oscillate between full blades and half blades. Still others venture into the extremely experimental, just throwing a single strip of white tape on the bottom of their blades. And some players experiment more than others, going from a full heel to toe and white tape one day to a half a blade and black tape the next. This experimentation is normal, yet most players turn to it when they're facing a scoring drought, when it's been too long since they produced any offense, when they're not playing their best. Everyone blames the stick. The toughest challenges that we face in becoming self-reliant and having confidence and trusting ourselves to make decisions come when we face adversity. When we stare losing, being incorrect, and failing in the face. Because it's in these circumstances when self-doubt creeps in the most aggressively. It's in these moments that we no longer believe in ourselves and our ability to succeed and things working themselves out. It's during these circumstances when the voice inside our heads telling us that we cannot do it speaks the loudest. That voice dominates our minds, calling into question every single little thing that we've done over the course of the last minute, day, week, year that led to the current moment. But it's in these circumstances we have to look to ourselves even more, to force ourselves to take one step and then another, and then another, and then another. That way, before we know it, we have run up the hill in front of us and have overcome the adversity. And now it's certainly easy for me as a fully matured adult to talk about trusting myself, about overcoming adversity in this way. I know myself, and I have known myself for quite a long time. I've taped my stick the same way from about the age of 10. But you know how you can learn whether or not to trust a person, even if that person is you? You just trust them. It's no different when that person lives inside your own mind. It is, oddly enough, that simple. Because you never can, at least not really, let yourself down. Yes, you will fail sometimes. But when this happens, you haven't let yourself down. You've just learned something. Sure, you might be in the midst of experimenting right now with who you are, with how you tape your stick, with who you want to be. But keep experimenting, particularly if you feel like you're not scoring. At least when it comes to the little things, like figuring out some of who you want to be. The big things, who you ultimately are, what you value, those things are pretty consistent. Because those parts of you are innate. They are part of who you are, how you were born. Do not let the adversity and the self-doubt that accompanies adversity break your trust in yourself. That voice inside your head is one of the very few things in your life that you can control. Do not let it control you. Bring your own tape. Prepare however you need to prepare for your decisions in life. Yes, seek advice. Yes, question that same advice. And yes, trust the decisions you make. Because life is full of hills that you cannot climb. It's full of emotions welling in the bottom of your stomach, of random bouts of crying, of insensitive comments made in the heat of the moment. But who you are and who you want to be ultimately cross paths at this intersection. The one between adversity and whether or not you stick to your own ideas. Don't be the teammate who lets someone else tape their stick. Tape your own. Even if it rips, if it's not quite perfect, if it doesn't get you any goals, it's still yours. And you should be proud of that. Thank you.